It is 7 o'clock. Today is Wednesday, February 19th, 2020. Mr. Aho, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Curtis?
Here.
Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Here.
Mr. Felber?
Here.
Mrs. Gordon?
Here.
Okay, great. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Not this evening, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll move on to the President's report. Good evening and welcome parents, visitors, and administration of Wilcox Primary School, George G. Dodge Intermediate School, and Twinsburg High School. I'm Mark Curtis, and I appreciate the honor of being your board president. As February marks the celebration of Black History Month, I hope all of you are enjoying the activities that have been planned throughout this month and continue to participate in learning and understanding the contributions and achievements of African Americans in this country. In addition, the Blue Ribbon Schools will be hosting a pancake breakfast that is scheduled for March 7th from 9 o'clock until noon at the Twinsburg High School. And once again, the Twinsburg Chamber of Commerce will also host a business expo during the breakfast, and this year, the Twinsburg Council PTE will also be hosting a community carnival during the same time. So if you're not busy, come on out and eat and learn more about what's happening with the PTA and the Chamber. It certainly will be an event to remember. The Twinsburg Schools Foundation will also be hosting its first ever fundraiser that same evening in partnership with the Cleveland Cavs at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. The event will begin at 3:45 and will offer a behind-the-scenes look at how the Cavs operate, and then you can enjoy the game against the Denver Nuggets at 7 p.m. These two events combined should make for an amazing day. Finally, I'd like to congratulate those who were recently inducted into the Twinsburg Athletic Boosters 2020 Hall of Fame on February the 8th. The people that were recognized were Aaron Macer, class of 2011 for football, basketball, and track and field. Courtney Paul, class of 2014, softball and soccer. Braden Susnick, class of 2014 for ice hockey. And Matt Weller, class of 2008 for football. This recognition is well deserved, and their names and picture will be forever memorialized in the halls of Twinsburg High School for all to see. Looking out in the audience, I'm sure that there are a lot of future Hall of Famers in attendance. Until then, we're looking forward to recognizing you as Students of the Month. That being said, I'll now turn the meeting over to our superintendent, Mrs. Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Good evening, everyone. We have a packed house tonight. We have a lot of students to celebrate, so my remarks are going to be short, especially since Mr. Curtis stole most of my thunder here. So we're not going to be redundant in the comments. But a couple of other things. Tomorrow night is a big night for our orchestra students at the middle school and the high school. It is their benefit concert at 7 o'clock p.m. So if you're interested in just catching an outstanding orchestra concert, it's tomorrow night over at the high school. And that precedes the OMEA orchestra contest that our students are participating in this weekend. So best wishes to Mr. Resnick and Mr. Kahn and all of our orchestra students, and we thank the Twinsburg Orchestra Boosters for supporting this wonderfully talented group of youngsters. If you have never heard our orchestra, you really should. They're just fantastic. Also, next Saturday, not this Saturday, but a week out, on the 29th, is the annual North Coast Show Choir Invitational at Twinsburg High School. It is an all-day event. It is a major fundraiser for our Twinsburg Vocal Music Boosters. If you love to see show choirs perform, then you're going to want to come over to the high school and catch the shows all through the day and into the evening. Our Great Expectations and our RBC Singers and the Mood Swingers don't compete because our students are the hosts for the day and the night. But there will be many show choirs from the region that will be over at the high school. It is a wonderful event, and you're more than welcome to join us on Saturday the 29th. So, Mr. Curtis, everything else I have to say, you already said it, so I'm not going to repeat it. But we hope that you can join us for the pancake breakfast and the Twinsburg Foundation event at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse on March 7th. So this evening, we actually have something new, a new feature to share with our Board of Education. If you are a patron of the Akron Beacon Journal, we have been invited, as well as all schools in Summit County, to nominate wonderful students and wonderful members of our staff, wonderful volunteers that support our students every day, for awards in the Akron Beacon Journal. And over the last year and a half, every now and then you'll see an article that celebrates those individuals. Well, Mr. Sullen, our Director of Human Resources, has been responsible for gathering the nominations on behalf of the school district and submitting them. And this evening, we'd like to celebrate some of those individuals who have recently been nominated and who have appeared in the Akron Beacon Journal as wonderful support for our kids here, but also wonderful students who do great things every single day. So, Mr. Curtis, I don't know who will help with the pins, but before we get to the school awards, we want to recognize our Akron Beacon Journal Awards, and Mr. Sullivan is going to take the microphone and begin.
Good evening, Board of Education, Superintendent Powers, families, parents, brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, administrators. Everyone, welcome this evening. I want to thank you all for coming out. As Superintendent Powers has already alluded to, we will be recognizing our nominees for the Akron Beacon Journal. It's called the Make the Grade nominations. And so it has been awesome. It's been a way for us to highlight kids on a district level and to actually get them published in many accounts as the feature student or the feature teacher or difference maker of the month. And so without further ado, the first up is Kids of Character. So the Kids of Character, they are described as kids with high character, high moral integrity, and they just do something to stand out. And so the kids that were chosen this month were actually nominated from Dodge and Wilcox. So at first, we would like to recognize our 6th grade students from Dodge. It is Lily Ciavarella, Sophie Majors, and Leah Reyes. If you can please come forward. These 3 young ladies took it upon themselves to spread kindness at George G. Dodge Intermediate School. They created a bulletin board where students can take a message of positivity whenever they need it. The board is also a catalyst for others to share thoughts and encouragement to others. With no prompting, these girls wanted to make a difference in our school. It is their goal to have others find happiness each day. They're out there. She said they are out there. See, I'm normally the one only taking pictures. They gave me a microphone now, so. All right, we'll clap for them again. All right, so Dodge parents, if you are here, now's a great time to take a picture. And who's stepping? All right. Who's taking a picture for me? All right. Perfect. Thank you. Next up are students from Wilcox. I'm kind of going to call them all up. First, we have Nora Tinter. We have Ellis Heinrich. Nina Magnus. Nolan Donahoe. Nathan Wright. Bailey Leskovic. Adriana Reeves. Macy Clune. Maggie Rohr. Audrey Bartek. Maggie Royer. Landon Hazinski. And Theo Marin. So if you're wondering what these lovely, lovely Wilcox students are doing up here, the first grade students at Wilcox Primary School are part of the school's Smile Patrol. These students are nominated by their teachers for being responsible, friendly, and outgoing. They arrive early to school each day, put on their yellow Smile Patrol sashes, and go to various locations near the entrances and in the halls around the school building. As classmates enter Wilcox from the bus stop or car rider drop-off, they are greeted by Smile Patrol members with good morning, have a great day, and lots of high fives. All right, thank you. Next, we will be honoring our Teens of the Month. Teens pretty much have the same qualifications as the kids of character. Once again, teens with high character, making a difference within the high schools and going above and beyond. So first, I would like to recognize Hannah Moliano. Since 1923, the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards have provided opportunities to student artists and writers, filmmakers, photographers, poets and sculptors, video game artists, and science fiction writers to be celebrated and encouraged in their creativity. Students across America submitted 340,000 original works this year in 29 categories of art and writing, including our own Tiger artists. Okay. Scholastic jurors look for works that exemplify originality, technical skill, and the emergence of personal voice or vision during a rigorous judging process. Past winners include Andy Warhol and writer Sylvia Plath. Hannah was awarded a gold key for her work, A String of Heavenly Tribute, and she was also nominated for the American Visions Award. All right, next up, you can stay, Hannah. Next up, we would like to recognize someone who no one knows who this is, Joshua Aponte. While every student in grades pre-K through 8 know him as Twinny, the THS mascot, Josh is an outstanding student who is active in almost every club and activity at THS. A member of the drama club, Josh also acts in community theater as well as THS plays. He takes American Sign Language and is seen helping students in ASL 1 and 2 with the intricate hand motions needed to translate words, phrases into sign language. Josh, aka Twinny, is a representative of THS values and demonstrates the idea that our community is Tiger strong, safe, team player, respectful, organized, noble, and goal-oriented on a daily basis. Picture time. Next, we would like to recognize our amazing teachers of the month, the nominations to the Akron Beacon Journal. First, we have Miss Kimberly Matten. Mrs. Matten is an intervention specialist. What makes her amazing? Mrs. Matten consistently goes above and beyond to meet the needs of all students she works with in her classroom. All too often, when we think of an intervention specialist, we think of someone who provides targeted intervention for a specific group of children. Mrs. Matten approaches her job as someone who sees all students in the building as her own. A student doesn't need to be in her classroom to receive individual attention and care. As her principal, Mr. Holland, I am so proud to have her on our team, looking out for our children, supporting their needs, and providing them with individual care. It is for this reason that I am nominating Ms. Kimberly Matten as an amazing teacher with the Akron Beacon Journal. On behalf of RBC would not like to nominate Ms. Jody Casino. Ms. Casino has an unparalleled commitment to teaching the whole child. Her students never fail because she is always working with her students on mastery learning, reteaching, and retesting as often as needed to ensure success. She also is an advocate for social and emotional competency in her classroom. Her students have access to a variety of strategies to maintain their well-being. She recognizes that we all may have a bad day, but works with her students to use strategies to regulate and get them back on track without getting sent to the office. She recently proposed the positive referral behavior slip to the office and began using them with her own class and shared her stress reducers that sit on the student's desk while they are testing. Picture time. Oh, you got your picture already? Last but not least, we would like to recognize our difference makers. The difference makers are non-certified staff, so instructional assistants, janitors, custodians, anyone else who is non-administrative or on a certified staff. This is what our difference makers. They go above and beyond, and they are truly making a difference not only in our school but in our community. First, I would like to recognize Mr. Dave Bowley, THS Assistant Custodian. Mr. Bowley is one of our Twinsburg High School custodians. During the extended absence of our head custodian, Mr. Bowley has taken responsibility for overseeing the custodial and janitorial work of the entire building. He has done so without complaint and with work ethic that knows no bounds, taking the responsibility of keeping the building safe and secure for both cleanliness and from both a cleanliness and security lens. He ensures that the daily operations of THS happens without a glitch. Mr. Bowley is a difference maker in that the administration, teachers, staff, and students all know that we can count on him to get things done and to get them done right. Mr. Bowley. And last but not least, we would like to recognize Mrs. Patty Mold from Bissell. Now you gotta clap again. Mrs. Mold, Technology Resource Specialist at Samuel Bissell Elementary School, is a true difference maker. Mrs. Mold goes above and beyond to create challenging but fun experiences for all our students. When students enter the computer lab, they may have an opportunity to experience Class VR, Hour of Code, Engineers Week, Google Doodle, Stream Lab, or a variety of typing activities. She makes learning fun, and students look forward to going to the computer lab each week. Mrs. Mold. Thank you so much. And that concludes for me.
And we really do appreciate Mr. Sullivan's dedication to this. It's so much fun to see our students and our staff members have their photographs in the Akron Beacon Journal. It's so great to celebrate all great things here in Twinsburg. So thank you very much, Mr. Sullivan, for your leadership in this regard. We appreciate you. Okay. So now we'd like to ask Miss Linville to come forward because we have a lot of Tigers from Wilcox Primary School to celebrate this evening. So Miss Villa. Way from the back. Have to send up smoke signals, maybe. It's a full house. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Powers. Good evening, everyone. Every month we have the privilege of recognizing our Wilcox Rocks kids. These are our students who follow our Wilcox pledge of being responsible, being respectful, being caring, and being safe. So Mr. Asti is going to invite each of you to come up, boys and girls. If your teacher is here, come on up too. And we're going to do some handshaking. Mrs. Boutros and I will help you with that.
Excellent. Good evening, school board, Mrs. Powers, community. Like Ms. Villa said, we have some great students to recognize and the staff who make them great, and as well as the parents. So I'm going to read some names, and when I call your name, you can come on up. And if your teacher's here, the teachers are also certainly invited up. So first up, first grade, we have Owen Howe and Mrs. Lipnis' class. Come on up, Owen. So Ms. Lipnis has said that Owen is a wonderful young man. He is a hard worker and one of our class mailmen. He works very hard at completing his work and then delivers all the mail too. He is a great helper and an excellent student. Owen Howe. Next up is Richard Taylor in Mrs. Iani's class. Come on up, Richard. She said that Richard is a young boy and an honor to nominate for this award. He is responsible and respectful each and every day. He comes to school ready to learn and is a great listener. He pays attention to all his lessons and tries his very best. Around the classroom, he is always kind to his classmates. And Wilcox rocks because of Richard. Next, we have Solomon Ogbogu in Miss Miller's class. Come on up, Solomon. Solomon is a kind-hearted, caring, and helpful student. Without asking, he helps his friends in need and is a role model for all. Many other staff members, teachers, and substitutes acknowledge his helpfulness and respect as well. Wilcox rocks because of Solomon, too. Next is Marlo Brinkerhoff in Mrs. Perro's class. Marlo comes to school with a smile and a positive attitude. She is a leader in the classroom and is a good friend to her peers. She is creative and draws amazing pictures. She is responsible, respectful, caring, and safe. Our next student is Cooper Post in Mrs. Tershek's class. She says Cooper is a sweet and caring boy. He is patient and kind in the classroom with others. He is always willing to share and wait his turn. He is a hard worker who does his best at all times. His favorite subject is math, and he rocks at it. His behavior is noticed by other teachers, and Mrs. Tershek often gets compliments about him. Thank you for being a positive role model, she says. Our next student is a preschool student, Catherine Thompson-Atian in Mrs. Joskowitz's class. Come on up, Catherine. Catherine rocks because she always comes to school ready to listen and learn with a big smile on her face. She is a sweet and enthusiastic girl and loves to participate in classroom projects and always has meaningful contributions in the discussions. You rock, Catherine. And our next preschooler is Reese Jussick in Mrs. Ryder's class. Reese is a great student and a super sweet girl. She is a positive and great role model for her classmates. She is frequently among the first to help and mentor other classmates, and she is a valuable part of the classroom. And Mrs. Ryder is so happy to have her in class. Keep up the great work, she says. We are so proud of you. And this year, one of the things we started to do also was recognize some exceptional staff who are in there. And these are teacher-nominated staff members in and around Wilcox. And so I'm going to read the names of the staff and then invite them up as well. So if we could have Abby Todd, Linda Hoyle, Louise Detweiler, and Joyce Sloan come on up. Come on over, ladies. There's certificates for you too. We're all kids at heart, right? These 4 exceptional ladies were nominated by Miss Miller, and they said that they're one of the most giving, kind, and helpful staff members. Miss Miller has been so fortunate to work with this team of teachers and paraprofessionals who play a huge part in enhancing students' learning experiences and success at Wilcox. They go out of their way to help in situations and with tasks on their own time. They give up so much of their time and are always there when you need them. Wilcox rocks because of these 4 amazing ladies. Congratulations. If I could have all the staff and students hold your certificates up in front of you, look straight forward out to mom and dad if they're there. Make sure everyone can be seen for a good photo. Look at those big smiles.
We're just photobombing.
Thank you, boys and girls. Congratulations, students, staff, and parents as well.
Congratulations. And now we'd like to ask Mrs. Huggins and Miss Walker to come forward, and let's celebrate some students from George G. Dodge Intermediate School. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mrs. Huggins, and I'm here trying my best to represent Mr. Holland. First of all, I just want to thank all of you. I have a couple of announcements that Mr. Holland wanted me to make sure I announce this evening. I want to first thank our PTA, who has been so supportive this year. We just ended our 2nd successful book fair that they've put on and spent a lot of time with. It is always a wonderful thing when we can place books in the hands of students to take home and continue those reading skills. We have a month of dances, I say at Dodge, but dances for a good reason. Our first is the snowball dance, which will take place this Friday. And the thing that's so special about the snowball dance is it's sponsored by our staff and working with our students who are in our Magic Hearts and some of our most, I would say, unique students in our building. It's a great opportunity for our students to work across schools because we do invite students from other classes, and it's a time for our students to come together, have a great time, especially celebrating our students with special needs. And our 6th grade dance will happen in 2 weeks. So this is a big coming of age event for our 6th grade students at Dodge. It's one of their first times that they get to stay after school, party with their friends, and celebrate being the oldest students in the building before we send them on ready and able for RBC. So we're really looking forward to those events. Without further ado, I'd like our student council representatives to join us on the stage. All the events that I just talked to you about has some hand in them from our students because we at Dodge believe that it is important for our students to take leadership roles. As you will see with these great students here, they're going to take control tonight and help us honor their classmates.
Good evening. My name is Siona. Character counts at George G. Dodge Intermediate School. The following students were selected by their teachers at Dodge because they have represented and exemplified the qualities of outstanding leadership, citizenship, academic performance and effort, social skills, and overall accomplishments.
Good evening. My name is David Jacobus. The character word for fourth grade students for this quarter is respect. Respect means that we follow the golden rule, are tolerant of differences, use good manners and not poor language, are considerate of feelings of others, do not threaten, hit, or hurt anyone, and deal peacefully with anger, insults, and disagreements. The fourth grade students of the month from Miss Calv, Miss Gadsden, and Miss Jackson's homeroom are Charlotte Marin, Ryder Revok, and Mila Spencer.
Good evening. My name is Xavier. The character word for sixth grade students for this quarter is citizenship. Being a good citizen means you do your share to make your school and community better. You cooperate, you get involved in community affairs, you stay informed, vote, you are a good neighbor, you obey laws and rules, you respect authority, you protect the environment, and volunteer in your school community and community at large. The sixth grade students of the month from Mrs. Black, Mrs. Taylor, and Mr. Willis's homeroom are Zachary Barnes, Josh and Dee Bullier, and Micah Sanford.
Okay, parents and family members, now is your time to get your photo ops. And students, I need you to make sure you place your awards in front of you. Make sure they're the right side up. Smiles, please. Glad you got him to smile, Ms. Barnes. I was going to say something. All right, students, please join your families. Now, before we leave the stage, I cannot leave without thanking the folks that, I call them school moms and dads. I do, so forgive me for that. But those folks that are with our students during the day to help them. Teachers who are here from Dodge, please stand so that you can be recognized for your hard work as well. And our assistants. Okay, thank you very much. Mrs. Madden, I'm very, 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 very proud of you. Okay. And for our high school colleagues and friends, please come to the stage. It is your turn.
Thank you. So we have several people to recognize tonight, and it is an ongoing joke that it's hard to follow the cuteness, especially like now they're bringing out sashes. Like next time, people, we got tiaras. That's all I'm saying. But you know, at the end of the day, cuteness is important, and I can't wait till some of these kids come up to the high school. I saw a football player in the audience. I see an artist. I see a musician. But I'm so proud of our kids, and I have so many things to award tonight. And we are going to show the artwork on the PowerPoint tonight. We haven't done this in the past, but I think their art is so incredible that I think you need to see what our high school kids are able to do. So we talked a little bit earlier about the National Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. Students across America submitted nearly 330,000 original works in 29 different categories, and fewer than 30% of those students received recognition for their work. In addition to gold and silver keys and honorable mention recognitions, students may be nominated for the prestigious American Voices and Visions Medal. They receive gold keys, compete nationally, and receive national medals in some cases. This year, these students tonight are going, or this year, we hope that our students who are being recognized tonight may move on to the national ceremony at Carnegie Hall in New York City in March. We have this year 2 Gold Key Award winners, 1 Silver Award winner, and 4 honorable mentions. Hannah Moliano, come on up here, Hannah. I'm going to talk about you for a little bit. There she is. Hannah Moliano received a Gold Key for her work, A String of Heavenly Tribute. We actually have this here tonight because she's also her piece is also up for the American Voices and Visions Award. So I'm going to make her hold it, which will make her mad, but she'll get over it. Now, Hannah doesn't know, but can you tell him a little bit about what this is, what kind of art it is? Because I know it's beautiful and it reminds me of Michelangelo, but I'm, you know.
Yeah, so this is a gouache painting, which is a mix between acrylic and watercolor. Of the Florence Cathedral. It's one of the first Renaissance cathedrals in Italy. So this is just the ceiling and my own twist on it.
Pretty awesome. I'm going to lay that down so you don't have to keep that. So Hannah received a gold key for this work. This work was also nominated for the American Voices and Visions Medal, and she also received an honorable mention for her work Aphrodite, which is the next slide. So that's what she received an honorable mention for. So I think Mrs. Powers has your certificates. Next, we have our second gold key winner, Micaiah Harris. I know I saw you. Where's Micaiah? Micaiah is here. She received a gold key for her drama club poster, Can I Tell You a Secret? So drama club posters are a form of art as well. It's more graphic than perhaps what Hannah showed you, but she also received a silver key in the same category for her next drama club poster, The Importance of Being Earnest. Finally, Micaiah received an honorable mention for her work, This Fashion Trend is Trash. Making trash trendy, right? So you can see the difference in the art, and that's what scholastic art looks for. We also had 2 honorable mention students. Sam Maurer, is Sam here? Yep. Sam Maurer received an honorable mention for his portfolio of 10 works, of which I have put 2 up on the screen. And I think, Sam, you have to kind of explain what you did, because I know it's not painting, right?
No, it's... So the picture on the left was taken at the girls' soccer game against it was the district tournament this year. Then on the picture on the right, it's one of my friends who just likes biking, and I just did a lot of work on Photoshop with them, and I ended them in.
There you go, right? All right, great. Micaiah, do you want to talk about your posters? I didn't give you a chance at the mic. She doesn't want to.
This poster was for the fall play Trap that we performed just this last fall, and the other poster was from spring from last year when we performed The Importance of Being Earnest.
Okay, our final student that we are recognizing for their artwork is Aiden Smith. There's Aiden. Aiden is being recognized with an honorable mention for his picture, St. Basil's Cathedral. And I'm going to make him tell you what this is.
That's just colored pencil on paper.
Just colored pencil? Yeah. That's a pretty good just. All right, we're going to keep these guys up here because we have one more art award tonight, and that's in addition to the Scholastic Art Awards, THS competes in the Cleveland Clinic Expressions Art Competition. There were only 15 research topics to choose from this year and 1,400 entries of art, language, and math. This year, we are proud to recognize Gianna Faney, who earned a blue ribbon, first place, for her work, The Heart of It All. And I think it's the next picture up there, which is, well, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'll let her. Where's Gianna? Come on. I know. She really does.
Okay. So we had different subjects to choose between, and the one that I chose was how stress and the environment you grow up in as a child can make you more prone to having heart disease in the future. So I just showed like a kid who was under stressful conditions with like his mom. I drew like some alcohol, I don't know, they're dealing with some stuff. And his shadow reflected on the wall shows the future path that he could have of having heart disease.
All right, so get together, act like you like each other. Parents, go ahead, here's your picture time. All right, thank you. All right, good job, you guys. Next, we're going to recognize students here for academics. If you were at the Board of Education a few maybe months ago, you realized that we recognized several National Merit semifinalists. Well, I am extremely proud to say that all 5 of our semifinalists are now National Merit finalists. So the National Merit Scholarship Program determines which of the 16,000 semifinalists will advance to the finalist standing competition, and all 5 of ours were. So I'd like to call up again for their great academic. I've never had 5 students ever in a school be named as National Merit finalists, so this is pretty awesome. Josh Malio, oh my God. Josh, where are you? Are you here? Okay. Hannah Moliano, Deepti Naruka, Krishna Patel, and Caleb Simon. The last time they were here, I kind of joked that our future presidents and scientists and lawyers and engineers are standing up here, and they really are. If you knew what they were taking, AP classes, GPAs of over 4.7. I mean, it's incredible what these kids have accomplished to this date, and I know going forward, they're going to accomplish a whole lot more, right? Right. Right. All right, good job. Did everybody get their picture? Okay. All right. Last but not least, Twinsburg High School, along with all the other schools in the district, recognize their Students of the Month. This month we are recognizing students who have been nominated by their teacher for demonstrating the characteristic of being noble. So first I'm going to call up Annie Glover. Where's Annie? Okay. Annie was nominated by her teacher for being passionate about school culture and standing up for the rights of others in the building. When she felt like the climate in one of her classes was becoming increasingly negative, she made an appointment with me to address the issue. She's always positive and proactive. Her teachers say they enjoy her, specifically in chemistry. Is that one of your favorite subjects? It is now, right? Okay. And know that she will have an amazing impact on the world. Annie is also a member of the Superintendent's Advisory Council, selected because of her global vision and willingness to work on the overall culture and climate of the high school in specific, but the district in general. Good job, Annie. Stay up there, though. Next, we have Mason Fletcher. Mason's teachers say that he is a bold and confident student who always holds himself to high standards. He's the type of student that does not settle for less, and he works well with his peers. He helps to encourage and motivate students in the classroom and influences them through the high standards that he holds for himself. I think what is most telling about him is when I told him he was going to get this award, he said, "Wow, I never saw that coming." So that was his email to me, Mason Fletcher. Finally, we have Brennan Hopp. There he is. I thought you came in. Coming from basketball, right? Brennan holds himself to high standards in the classroom. He is always striving to do better. He works tirelessly in class to maintain and develop the high standard that he has set for himself. He exceeds academically as well as on the basketball court. It is always a pleasure to watch as the high standards that he holds himself to are evident during the basketball games, in addition to the classroom. All of these students received multiple nominations from teachers this month. So I always think that's kind of telling about what teachers and adults in the building think about the kids. So here we are, Annie Glover, Mason Fletcher, and Brennan Hopp. Congratulations.
Well, we are so very Tiger proud of all of our students. Thank you for celebrating students from Wilcox straight on up to Twinsburg High School this evening. Mr. Curtis, that concludes our report for tonight.
Thank you. So we're going to begin the business portion of our meeting. You're welcome to stay, but if you do not, this is the time that you would be welcome to leave so that we can move forward.
It's a long one for you. Gonna order a pizza.
Okay, we're going to move on to committee reports. Are there any committee reports?
Yeah, actually, the curriculum committee met on the 10th, and you'll see several items that are going to be voted on today. We got to hear a little bit about new class, the intro to digital art design, number 2. So we were able to review some of the products from Design 1, which was really cool. Also learned about learned about Project Lead the Way, and some of the details coming from that, as well as several new pieces of literature for the Spanish curriculum, which we went through and learned about all of that. Dr. Walker walked through suicide awareness curriculum. And then finally, we looked through some changes on federal grants, which I guess are a moving target every year. And the good news is they were increasing our funding this year, so that's good news.
Excellent. Any other committee reports? Okay. Hearing none, I will turn it back over to the superintendent for the administrative report.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. As you can see, we have wonderful members of our staff that are assembling in our room this evening. Board of Education, a little over a year ago, the board heard an enthusiastic request from Ms. Lauren Fenning and Ms. Carla Haas regarding something called blended learning. And the board provided the school district with an opportunity last school year to test pilot our Tiger Learning Lab pilot project, which introduced blended learning to our classrooms in a small way. And fast forward to the summer, we made the request to grow cohort 1 to cohort 2, and we asked permission for there to be a position of our blended learning coach, because what we do know is that when we're trying to implement a new strategy that changes the face of instruction in our classroom, that our teachers need high-quality professional development that is ongoing, that is effective, that is research-based. And so this evening, our members of our staff are here to share with you what has been going on in our blended learning classroom since you authorized the pilot more than a year ago. This is an enthusiastic bunch of educators. It is fun to be around them, to visit their classrooms. I was in Ms. Klavick's classroom for the morning today, just enjoying the time with her students and with some of the other visitors from Wilcox Primary School, which is part of our model of professional development, allowing teachers the opportunity to visit each other's classrooms where blended learning is happening so they can see for themselves how this would work in that classroom as well as how that transfer might occur in their classrooms as well. So presenting this evening are a number of staff members from Wilcox Primary School, Samuel Bissell Elementary School, and George G. Dodge Intermediate School. But we also have Mrs. Jennifer Farthing, our Director of Curriculum, Ms. Beth Mariola, our Supervisor of Innovative Programs, that's a mouthful, and Ms. Lynn Villa, Principal at Wilcox Primary School, along with our blended learning coach, Ms. Lauren Fenning. So I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Farthing. Welcome. We're very excited to see you all this evening.
Good evening, Board of Education. I'm pleased to be here this evening and so excited that we have a whole crew here filling up the first row. The student growth goal in the district has always had the whole child at the center of the goal for many years. We adopted Ohio's social and emotional learning standards in a recent meeting. These standards continue to put the focus of the whole child right in the center. The studios of blended learning help build the center of the social and emotional learning competencies for our students. You received a handout in your purple folder that has these social and emotional learning competencies on them for you. The blended learning studios are focused on many of these competencies. For example, communication, relationship building, respect for others, just to name a few. These are also helping build 21st century skills for our learners. Additionally, they are building soft skills, which is one of our goals in the strategic plan, allowing us to continue to build the focus on the whole child. I will now turn the presentation over to Mrs. Fenning, and she is going to discuss the why behind blended learning.
Thank you again. As Mrs. Powers said, it's exciting for us to be here, and it was just a little over a year ago that we came and you supported us through this pilot program, and we've learned so much and implemented so much, and we're so excited to share with you the impact that we feel like it's having in our classrooms. So we worked very hard to, I always forget that I have to change this slide, but it's good for now. So we've worked very hard at changing and transforming our learning spaces through flexible furniture, paint. We've also added Chromebooks to our environment to really produce learning studios for our students. We're learning how to differentiate our mini lessons by gathering data with the help of our digital Chromebooks or our Chromebooks that help us to immediately get feedback from adaptive programs that we're working or pre-assessments that we are giving to our students. We're also allowing opportunities for our students to have some control over the pace and the place that they're moving through our lessons, as well as their learning pathways. And we're seeing a lot of growth in engagement, student voice, and student choice. It's pretty cool because we're seeing our students collaborate daily with one another. And they're demonstrating their learning through these activities that we're providing. We're also seeing confidence grow as they reach or tweak their weekly goals. Our students are learning collaboration and communication skills as they gather and group together in activities that require critical thinking and creativity. So if you were to walk into a blended learning classroom, you would see students working on skills to become successful and future ready. Beth Mariola is going to share in a moment. I'm going to just explain, just to remind some of you, and maybe it's the first time some of you have heard, how a blended learning classroom is set up. So there's basically 4 different studios: the mini lesson, digital content, independent practice, and future ready. Our teachers are going to get into that a little bit later. But all of these are studios in which we have facilitated activities, or we're guiding the students through. It's providing choice for our students as they choose the place that they're going and the path that they're taking. It's also allowing our students to go at their own pace with our guidance. All of this we're driving by, we're gathering, and all of this is driven by the data that we're collecting from our students. So it's a really powerful tool for us to use to differentiate, enrich, and help our students wherever they are. So Beth Mariola is going to share a little bit about Visible Learning.
Thank you, and good evening, Board of Education.
As you heard Mrs. Fenning mention, blended learning is driven by data to help teachers to inform their next instructional steps. And with any initiative, we look to research and we look to best practices to support our decision making. So one of the most thorough bodies of research is the work of John Hattie in his book, Visible Learning. I know this was brought up at a meeting that the district is really working hard on and focused on depth of knowledge as well as teacher clarity this year. All of that is grounded in Hattie's work. And of course, John Hattie is a researcher within the field of education who's conducted over 95,000 research studies on what works best to improve student growth and student learning, essentially. In calling your attention to this graphic up here, Hattie has determined that the effect size of 0.4 is the hinge point for making a substantial impact on student learning. And what that basically means is that Hattie has quantified essentially at what point for a learning strategy is that particular strategy having a substantial positive impact. And so we're looking at 0.4 and beyond. So throughout this presentation, we're going to go more deeply into each of the learning studios, but we're also going to tease out for you what strategies, learning strategies and techniques are employed within each of these studios and what effect those have on student learning. First and foremost, though, I want to highlight the teacher clarity piece because it's so important that teachers have clarity on the what, the why, and the how, and the learning objectives that they're presenting to students, and that students also have clarity in their understanding of the learning targets. So to go a little more deeply into that element, we have Mrs. Jocelyn Rowetter here tonight.
Good evening, Board of Education. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here because this is my first year doing blended learning, and I'm here to talk about teacher clarity. So teacher clarity starts with deconstructing all the standards that we look at, the power standards in particular, and it requires purposeful planning in order to stepstone students to become successful. So when you look at a standard, you need to be clear in understanding that standard yourself as a teacher, and the students need to understand that standard as well. So to what extent do you have these conversations and plan this way? Well, children need to know what they are learning, why they are learning it, that's the big why they're learning it, and how they will know when they've learned it. So that's the progression that we go through each of the 4 studios. So teachers are providing these stepstones to mastery. Within each and every learning studio, students are clear about learning intentions because we are purposeful in exposing them to these 4 different modalities: the small group instruction with a teacher, independent practice, digital adaptive practice, or computers, and future-ready collaborative learning. So those were the 4 studios that my colleagues will go through. So when we switch the slide, when we look at teacher clarity and being clear and thoughtful in our practice, the effect size is 0.75, so that's pretty strong. So again, a few weeks ago, I was at the Board of Education meeting, and I always like to define to be clear. So again, clarity means the quality of being coherent and intelligible. Some synonyms, because again, I'm a teacher, I like synonyms and antonyms, but synonyms for clarity: clearness, precision, you demonstrate, explain, expound, and then interpret. So we're making all those clear expectations for our students and their learning. So when you go over the 3 questions for each of the 4 studios, we're going over: where are we going? How am I doing? And where am I going next? So that's the progression, and it's intentional. So when teaching students, they always need to focus on those 3 questions. And when students fully understand those 3 questions during a lesson, learning becomes clear and intentional. Kim Henderson will now talk about the first learning studio, which is small group instruction or mini lesson. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Ed. Thank you for having us. I'm very excited to be part of the first cohort of
the blended learning. I've learned a lot. I've become more excited about what I do in the classroom, and watching the kids become excited has driven my own enthusiasm for this initiative. The mini lesson is a really important key component of what we do each day. It's the time when I get to sit with my students in a small group setting of maybe 4, 5, 6 students at a time, and I have a lesson that I'm planning to teach that they will go to the other studios later to learn and to practice. But with me, that mini lesson is really important because what I'm seeing is focused and engaged learners like I've never seen in 20-some years of teaching. In a whole group setting of a class of 30 that I would teach in the past, it's easy for kids to get distracted. It's easy for kids to lose their focus or become passive learners. And in that small group setting, there's no room for that. They're all engaged. They're all participating. And so that's been exciting. It's a safe environment for quieter, more reserved students to have a voice, to feel safe to ask questions. It's okay to be wrong in that small group setting. That's important for students. It's the time where I give direct instruction with flexible grouping. So the group that I meet with today first might be a different group that I meet with tomorrow, depending on what those individual needs of students are. And so the assessment that I gather helps me decide which group I'm meeting with and for what purpose. And I'm able to change that up on a daily basis. Fourth, it gives me immediate assessment as a teacher, and it gives students immediate feedback from me. I can find out right away which students are understanding what I'm teaching, which students are still struggling, and I can make small adjustments in what I'm teaching to make sure everybody's understanding, and I can give that immediate feedback that helps propel their learning. Finally, and I think most exciting, is the relationships that we're building with students in that small group setting. Every day, I'm meeting with every student, having a one-on-one conversation, a 4-on-1 conversation, a discussion all together. I think it builds trust with students, and it builds that rapport that helps develop the whole child. And so now I'd like to introduce Carla Haas, who will be talking about independent practice. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. The mini lesson, the Hattie's research is really important, and I think it encompasses many things. The direct instruction that we give in the mini lesson has a 0.6 effect size. Student-teacher relationships that I just spoke of, 0.72 effect size. Reciprocal teaching, which gives kids in a discussion setting the opportunity to share their own learning and to essentially take part of the instruction, actually, of one small part of that. And that back and forth is 0.74, all very effective teaching strategies. And now Carla Haas.
Good evening. I feel like I want to mimic something that Kim said. I've been a teacher in this district for 27 years. 29, you figure it out. No, for 27 years. And honestly, in those 27 years, I've been involved in a lot of new teaching strategies. And the community and the board and the superintendents have always been very supportive of us trying new things. But it occurred to us last year with Lauren as my leader that this took the best of all of that, the best of all that we've done over 27 years, and put it into one delivery system. It took the best of what the kids needed and put it into one manageable program. There were days when I was all left feet and thumbs, or however they say it, but after a while, I shared something with Kim today that I looked up at my kids and they were ready for blended learning before I was. I was still shuffling around looking for markers or something, and when I looked up, everyone was in their space ready to go. So I just wanted to give you that. I'm talking about independent practice. So after the students have been introduced to a new concept, or they've learned a new skill, and they've been given opportunity to hear the lesson in a new way in their digital content, which someone else is going to talk about in a minute. And they've had opportunities for guided practice. It's very effective and very important for the children to have an opportunity to practice their skill, their knowledge, their understanding on their own. It gives us an idea of where they are in the process of learning, how much they've absorbed, where we need to go tomorrow, and it helps the child feel confident. Yay, I got 2 of them right, whatever it is. I've learned that there's a lot of flexibility in the independent studio. Yesterday, my kids had a reading assignment where they had one purpose to read for something. Today, so basically I like to always tell parents, we are still holding books. Yeah, we have Chromebooks in the room, but we're still holding books. We're holding novels. Today, from the reading of yesterday, they had paper and pencil. And their task, they thought they had one question to do, but in that one question, they really had 4 tasks for me. They had to provide evidence. They had to analyze the evidence. They had to draw a conclusion, but only work on one question in their 15-minute-ish studio. I had one little excerpt of what they took away from yesterday's reading. Now tomorrow when we get together and we have a rich discussion in my mini lesson, that's all going to be useful to me, but it's also going to confirm for them what they've learned. Anyways, mini lesson is super important, and Hattie's going to prove it, if Jen could advance that. I need my glasses. 29, and I can't see. So 0.79, that's the highest you've seen yet. Independent practice is a traditional strategy we've used for 27 years of my teaching career, but it's being used in blended learning, and it's very valuable. Thank you. I'm going to introduce Mary Labus, and she's going to talk to you about the other 2 studios, Future Ready and Digital Content. Thanks.
Good evening. The Future Ready Studio provides students with a variety of opportunities to apply and demonstrate their learning through self-chosen, hands-on activities that encourage communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration to prepare the students for success in the future. Students manipulate content skills in a meaningful way and typically work together with a partner or small group to showcase their understanding of the concepts. Some examples of future-ready activities, which you can see in some of the pictures up there, are playing a game, working on task cards, creating a poster, making a video, explaining a concept, doing VR. That's the picture in the very top. They're doing some virtual reality. So just hands-on experiences in the classroom. This is, for my students, this is one of their most favorite studios that they like to do. They're given a game, they think it's just all fun and not a whole lot of learning going on, but in reality, we're seeing so many skills that they're actually learning in that studio. And we can also look at the Hattie's research. So if you're looking here, Hattie's research states that small group learning has a 0.48 positive effect on learning. Peer tutoring has a 0.53 effect, and authentic problem solving has a 0.68 effect on the learning. The Future Ready Studio not only gives the students a different opportunity to demonstrate their understanding, but it also works on social skills necessary to be successful as they continue through their life. That's one of the major things that we're seeing during that Future Ready Studio, just working on how to communicate with each other, how to handle not always winning the game or not getting to go first. So some of those other skills that we're working on during that studio. I also am going to talk about digital content. So during the digital content studio, students use technology, currently in the form of Chromebooks, to reinforce the concepts being taught. Using Google Classroom, Freckle, Brain Pop, and other various online resources, students have the opportunity to practice those skills. The digital content studio can be used in a variety of different ways. Initially, students are given a pre-assessment on the upcoming concepts. In my classroom this year, I am using a digital pre-assessment using Google Forms. So the data from the pre-assessment is available to me as soon as the students complete their assessment. This information that can then be used to group the students according to the pre-assessment. My students, we started a new unit this week talking about money. I had my students on Tuesday took a pre-assessment. I had 2 students who were absent on Tuesday. We were starting today, so earlier today, the 2 students who were absent, I had them take their pre-assessment. I could then collect that data, see how they did, and then easily make my 4 groups to start our math centers later on in the afternoon. So getting that feedback immediately was huge. The digital content studio can also be used to differentiate activities based on the pre-assessment data. Students who need more support on the concepts that we're going to be teaching can be exposed to those concepts first, doing some pre-teaching, giving them exposure before they go to mini lesson. Students who are demonstrating proficiency with the concepts can use the digital content studio to practice activities, to just practice those skills that we're learning. And then the students who have mastered the concepts will use digital content to apply the skills to higher level projects or activities. This year, we have been using a website called Freckle in our classrooms. So Freckle is used for both math and English language arts. As the teacher, you can either assign the skills and concepts that we want them to be focusing on. Right now, if we're working on money, I can go into Freckle and assign the students to work on activities that just deal with money. Or they have another part of it where the students can work on lots of other skills based on a pretest. Using Freckle is such a wonderful resource because it can meet the needs of all the students. It offers remediation and enrichment opportunities for all the students. So if we're looking at the Hattie's research for digital content, the interactive videos have a 0.52 effect, and micro teaching or video review of the lessons has a 0.88 positive effect on student learning. The Digital Content Studio has helped to provide immediate feedback to the students. Also, it has driven my instruction to meet the needs of all the students. My students can't wait to be able to go to digital content also. Those are Future Ready and digital content are probably their 2 favorites. And they ask every day, are we doing blended learning math today? Can we go to digital content? Can we do Future Ready? So it has really changed what I've been doing in my classroom, and my students absolutely love it. So I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Sandy Petrash to talk about data meetings.
Hello, I'm a kindergarten teacher, 2nd cohort, 1st year at Wilcox. So we're doing this with kindergartners. Each Friday we meet with the students, and I often tell parents at parent-teacher conferences at the beginning of the school year, the first part of kindergarten is learning how to be a student, learning how to be at school. And I feel that, through these data meetings, we meet with the children one-on-one individually, and we're talking to them about their work. How did you do? What do you think? If you were the teacher and you had to look at that, what would you say about your work? And the students are really learning what's expected, what our expectations are, and then how to improve and what they can do. And sometimes they're a little harder on themselves than I would be, And then we have the children set goals. What's your area you think you need to work on the most? Like, what would you like to be? Do you have a hard time focusing on your work? Is that going to be your goal? Do you want to really work on coloring neatly, writing your name, writing on the lines, not having your letters all over the place? Or, they're really conscious about their work and taking ownership in it and teaching them independence as well. Like a lot of times kindergartners are, they're still little, they're 5 years old, and they need help, they need support, and we can offer it to them, but yet we encourage them to try on their own. And what do you think? And to think for themselves. This is maybe the first time they've been asked to really think for themselves and come up with an idea on their own and do that. So the data collection meetings, they also, you get to know your students, you're building relationships with them. What do you think your goal is? Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe we can try that. So it's been very beneficial for us. And then we have the data, we can collect the data, and we are keeping track of, accommodations that we're making for these students. And when we have our watch meetings with administration, you say, we're a little bit worried about this one, and maybe we want to bring this child to IAT, but look, here's the data. This is the accommodations I had every week. This is what I'm using, and this is what I'm doing with the students. So that's been very helpful. That's how we do it in kindergarten, and then Katie Glavik is going to tell you how they do it at 3rd grade.
Good evening. Today has been lots of blended learning fun for me. As Mrs. Tower said, she came to watch my classroom this morning, and so did 3 of the Wilcox teachers. So it has been a very fun but eventful day. Data meetings are so essential and important, not only to just having blended learning be successful, but to really helping the students be successful. They're able to have that dedicated time just with their teacher to discuss their progress, to talk about, how are they doing with the current concept that we're learning right now? How are they doing on current assessments, so pre-assessments, post-assessments, when we do quizzes halfway through chapters, tests, things like that. It's really a time that we can kind of focus in a very just specialized time for them. So it's not a whole class, kind of talk about, for the most part, we all did pretty good, on this test or something, but really telling them, right, and talking to them individually about how they're doing with things. So in 3rd grade classrooms, we utilize a data chart like the one that's showing up on the screen. So students, they're highly motivated by this because numbers just don't mean a whole lot to them. When they see a +9 out of 15, or +9 out of 12, it doesn't mean a whole lot, or especially not percentages. They definitely aren't understanding that. So when they can see colors, they know that if they are coloring in things that are red means that they've missed something. Yellow means that they have it partially correct, and green means that it is correct. So we're able to see, we do a pre-assessment before we begin a unit. That's how we kind of group them into our mini lesson groups for when they come to meet with us. And then we do a post-assessment at the end. So this is something that we talk a lot about during data meetings is, I see that we're still missing, for one of them that's on the screen, we're still missing question number 6. We have it read for the post-assessment that we took for multiplication, both times the pre and the post. So then we can kind of focus in, okay, what was that question? Where was that question aligning? Because the questions are always similar, not the exact same, but that way we can really focus on it. Is it, for fractions, is it the equivalent fraction kind that they're missing? Or if it's comparing fractions that have the same denominator or same numerators, those kinds of things. It really gives you just more of a focus on what to talk to them about and those things as well. So this helps all learners, whether they're struggling or gifted, because now they can see specifically where they have strengths and weaknesses. So they can see, if there's a lot of green, we can focus on then we need to be challenging ourselves. That way I can kind of direct them in the field of what kinds of things do you think would, help us, kind of reach a little bit further? Would it be doing some kind of bigger project, that we have for our future ready activities? Or would it be, making some kind of poster to kind of help teach others the skill? Whereas if they have a lot of red, then that's something where we can kind of focus, we need to draw it back. We need to kind of go back to basics. And they can also kind of then see, and they're like, okay, I still need to really work on these areas. So it helps them focus too on which areas they're still just not, succeeding with yet. And they notice that too, especially at this point in the year, because we've been doing this since September. So they're definitely, gaining strength and noticing those things. So we're able to discuss where they're struggling according to the data, where we should go moving forward. And the students, they just have such a sense of ownership now that we've started doing data meetings and using these charts. It gives them a direction themselves for continuing their learning. So instead of just us telling them, okay, this is what we're going to learn now, it gives them a sense of, well, I did, amazing, with this part, but I still need to focus on here. It just helps them kind of know where they should be going. And if we look at Hattie's research, the self-assessment piece, which is off the charts, it has a 1.33 effect size. And self-assessment, it's when students are assessing the quality of their own work, when they're thinking about their level of mastery of the subject. Evaluation and reflection is 0.75, which is when students are reflecting on how they have been completing their work. If they've been truly giving it their best effort, or were that week, where they kind of just more or less, talking to their friends, were they not really focused on what they were doing, just trying to get it done. And they do become, like Sandy said, they get honest, with themselves. Like they will say, yeah, I wasn't really focused this week. Feedback, which is a 0.7 effect size. So students receive feedback from the teacher, as to how they're doing on a concept. Why is it that they're doing that way? Are there certain things that we're noticing? So during some data meetings today, I talked with them about just, I noticed that, we aren't drawing, again, it was fractions, we aren't drawing our fraction strips very carefully. We were drawing them very messily, sloppily. And so then they're like, yeah, I was trying to rush. Like, I just wanted to be done. And so then we look at it and we're like, well, this is, what happens when we are trying to go too quickly. So they're able to notice those things as well. So now, Ms. Ortman and Ms. King are going to talk about co-teaching.
Hello, and thank you for having us here. So we have had a very unique opportunity where we are co-teachers. So I'm a second grade teacher, and Ms. Wortman is an intervention specialist who is able to be in my classroom. So for us, co-teaching has really been great, but then also we added that component of blended learning. And within co-teaching in the blended learning classroom, it has many benefits. We are able to work with our students with diverse needs and learning styles. We can provide instruction, but as well as the immediate feedback and the reteachings if necessary. So the model that has worked best for our classroom is called station teaching. So one teacher leads a mini lesson, and at times it might be me or it might be Ms. Wortman. There's two teachers in the classroom, and the students know that. It's not, this is the classroom teacher, I'm always going to go to Ms. King. We're both in it. And we're both there to support the students. So while the other teacher provides assistance and accommodations and independent practice. But also what we're able to do is we see that there's one group who's really doing a great job, and we can give them enrichment opportunities as well. So it's nice to have another set of hands at the independent practice station, because we can either provide the reteachings and the support, or we can provide the enrichment opportunities as well. We work collaboratively and create a productive learning environment to meet all of the needs of our students. With this method of lesson delivery, many IEP goals and objectives can be embedded within the curriculum in the general education setting.
Good evening. Co-teaching in a blended learning classroom reaches students at a deeper level. In this way, that both educators, the general education teacher and the intervention specialist, have a shared responsibility to do many components. We design lessons and plan instruction together. We prepare materials and assessments, and that's also supported through the summer study that we conducted, as well as the professional development opportunities we've had throughout the year. We both serve as the lead teacher, as Ms. King noted, serving the lead teacher as the mini lesson. Both teachers provide targeted interventions and accommodations. It's not just up to the intervention specialist to provide that. And we work together to promote a positive learning environment through a shared vision in the classroom. So this all leads to what's known as collective teacher efficacy. And that is defined as the collective belief of teachers and their ability to positively affect students. And we can see that collective teacher efficacy has a 1.57 effect size, which indicates a very significant positive impact on student learning. Okay. Next, we'd like to turn over the presentation to Lynn Villa to give her principal's perspective as well. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Research shows that people learn best when we feel like we're learning what we're learning applies to the real world. When we can review the content multiple times in different ways and at our own pace. And I think you've heard a lot of that tonight. We've seen a really positive impact with our youngest learners in Twinsburg through the hands-on experiences they've had in both our IPP and our KPP preschool programs. So expanding blended learning to kindergarten was the natural next step to make sure that we were continuing to offer those opportunities for our students as they progress through the grades. In just a half of the school year, I have seen remarkable growth in our kindergarten students. They're engaged in their own personal learning process. They are becoming more responsible learners. They're building stamina to persist through challenging tasks. They're learning to work together and solve problems. And they use technology as a tool for learning, not just as a toy. Blended learning also allows us to tailor the learning experience to each student in a way that is manageable for the teacher. Without fabulous teachers, I'm sitting here listening to them, and there's not one thing I can add that they haven't already said. They're all experienced veterans teachers, nothing's going to replace them, but it's the passion that they have for this, and to hear so many of them say, I've been teaching for a really long time and this is the best way that I have found, or it takes all the most important elements of what I've been doing over the years and combines them together. That's what makes blended learning so impactful to our students. The instruction and the practice are carefully designed. And that is an important word. It isn't just by chance, it's by design. That all students, from the students with disabilities to our students that are high achievers and gifted, and every student in between, gets a program that is tailored to their particular needs. So I think I have a Hattie, yes. So why blended learning? Well, when you look at everything that you've heard already tonight, and we combine the effect size of every one of those intentional instructional methods, of course that combination is going to be off the charts. We are creating a recipe for success. We're taking every ingredient and putting it together into that big mixing pot and pulling out the best for what every student needs. It's that combined effect size that has the biggest impact. And without great teachers and great professional development, we wouldn't be able to do this so well. So Mrs. Fenning is going to tell you a little more about that.
So the next slide. Oh, so, pardon? You're already there. Yes, you are. Okay. So professional development we've taken very seriously. We started this past summer with 2 half-days, providing time for our teachers to collaborate with one another and really prepare for the year. Also training in different strategies of blended learning. Marcia Kish is a blended learning expert that you've heard about. She's been in at least once a month this year to help us. She's worked with grade levels, subject levels. She's given us opportunities to grow in our implementation of blended learning phases in our classroom. She's also provided opportunities where the teachers can reflect on their own teaching. She walks through the room and sees what's going on in a blended learning classroom and can provide level up strategies for the teachers. And there's been some really neat conversations generated from that, and goal setting and areas that we really want to improve upon. Most important, we hear from our teachers is the time they have together and the collaboration that they have in sharing ideas, problem solving together, insights. They're an amazing team as far as sharing and coming up with creative ways to implement blended learning in their classrooms. We took the opportunity to give a survey to our teachers, and reflection's important to us, as I'll talk about here in the next couple slides. So we surveyed our blended learning teachers, asking them how blended learning has impacted their students. We asked about elements like the student's perception of learning, how's the student motivation, problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills, what about student confidence, student collaboration with peers, and the very important communication skills that they're building, and relationship skills as well. And you can see the results in front of you. We're positive. So I want to be really transparent with you right now, because we'd be remiss to tell you that we know everything and we have a perfect program. It's been a learning curve for us, big time. Last year, so I just put 3 points up here for you. I'm going to start with timing. Last year we started mid-year with this, and we were really, really excited about it. It revived us as teachers. We found a new way to empower the students. We jumped right in, and we're learning that what we need to do is we need to release this in a sensitive manner, if that makes sense. And so last year, we dove right in. We took our students and we jumped into our 4 studios. And we're learning and reflecting now through parent feedback, teacher feedback, student voice, that we need to tailor this. Our desire is to tailor the students' instruction for them. But they're coming from very different classrooms in some ways. So they may come from a more compliant situation where the teacher is giving them information and they're giving back what the teacher is asking them. And we're giving them a lot more ownership in their learning. Not without structure, but what we're learning is our students all have different needs. And blended learning can really shed the light on some of those weaknesses. Those weaknesses would still be there maybe in a traditional setting, but we're seeing them highlighted in a way that we need to learn how to support those students. One is slowing it down and implementing this in a way, and we are focusing on, are our students ready? I know some of the teachers have moved into, there's phase 1 and then there's phase 2 and phase 3, you could even go further than that. Some of their students weren't ready for phase 2 yet, so some of their students stayed in phase 1. That's not a punishment, the students have no idea. But what it is it's providing structure for those students, because for the first time they're asked to manage their time, right? They're asked to stay focused. They're asked to self-manage their behavior. And so we're learning how important that is for us to provide those structures for them. So I would say that that has been something that is going to always be our just sensitivity to this program and the needs of our individual students, and something that we were not necessarily aware of when we jumped right in. So we have asked the students, we've surveyed students, I'm not quite there yet, Jen, but we surveyed students and asked them their reflections and what they thought about blended learning. But also, we had different family nights at each one of the buildings this year, and we heard from parents that they really want to understand what blended learning is. So we want to find a way to provide this for parents before the school year starts, and we did not do that this year. And so we felt like maybe there was some confusion as far as what is blended learning and what exactly is my child participating in? How is it different than what they've experienced? So our goal is to really provide that next year for the parents so that what they understand what blended learning is, but also what it's not, and what that change means for them as a family. Just really want to be transparent with you as far as our self-reflection piece. So we're working on things. We feel really, we just shared so much positive with you, but we don't want to pretend. We're not trying to sell something. We're trying to take the best strategies, incorporate them in our classrooms, and do the best for our students. And now Jennifer Farley is going to share with you about the students' reflections and what they learned.
So just about 30 more slides. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just trying to add a little levity. Okay. I do have a few slides, but they'll go quickly because they're just pictures that you can look at in your leisure. We did want to survey our students and see what they thought about this. So we surveyed our cohort 1 and cohort 2 students in grades 2 through 6. We might get brave and try the kindergarten survey at the end of the year, but we just didn't think we were quite there yet to have that data for this presentation. So we have approximately 181 responses, and this first slide is about what studios do you like the most. So we have mini lesson, independent practice, digital content, and future ready. And these are actually how they like each of those studios, not which one they like best. And you will see that at least 80% of all of the students rate the studios either good to great. So you'll see that in those results. And then we asked the students what their favorite studio was. And digital content, as our teachers this evening said, digital content was their #1. And instead of future ready, they in the survey they said independent practice was their second favorite studio. Which digital content resources do you like? And we had the students choose all that apply, and Freckle was their number one choice of their options that they liked the most, and then they also liked using Google Classroom. We asked the students how do they like to work, and I think this might have surprised some people that the students said by myself, but right behind it was with a partner. You know, sometimes you like to work with a group and sometimes you don't, you know, and I think we as adults all understand that as well. And would you like to continue to do blended learning? 88% of the students said yes. And this survey was done anonymously, so we know that there was a little pocket that did not necessarily want to continue doing blended learning. So we don't know who those students were. So again, in transparency, we've talked to the teachers about making sure that you're doing a constant check-in with your students to make sure everything is going well with them and that they're understanding the content and making sure they're comfortable within their studios. And just make sure we're supporting the students on their blended learning journey. We had one narrative comment, and that was, what would you like to do more of? And then how can I help you be more successful? And the students liked working with other people. They liked project-based learning. They liked science. They liked Freckle. And in the 181 comments, the students listed almost all of the studios equally. And then how can I help you be more successful? There was not a lot. Some said nothing, more time to do their work. Obviously, I think in 3rd grade and possibly 5th grade, there was a lot of going on with equivalent fractions. So a lot of students put equivalent fractions that day. And again, most of the studios were all listed equally in this component as well. So you'll see that we've done a lot of surveys. And then the next phase of the survey was done without Mrs. Fenning's knowledge, really. So because we wanted to talk to you about what blended learning coaching looked like and how that was going in our district. So we did a survey with cohort 1 and cohort 2 teachers. This is a new position for us. We don't have any other instructional coaches in the district. We have academic coaches, but this is our first time having an instructional coach, so we wanted to get some feedback on that. So of our staff, approximately almost 80% said blended learning coaching was very helpful on a scale of 1 to 5. This is very telling. How often have you worked with a blended learning coach? So we have, you know, if you look at the blue, it's 6 to 8 times, the red is 8 or more times, and then the yellow is too many to count. So you can tell that Mrs. Fenning is very busy. What I wanted to do personally is we asked who was in cohort 1 and cohort 2. So the next slide breaks down so you can see how many times cohort 1 and cohort 2 answered that question. So cohort 1 is, like Lauren said, no one's perfect at this. So cohort 1 is still perfecting their craft. And then, you know, when we start next school year, you have a fresh crop of students and it's starting from ground zero. You might be more comfortable, but you're going to have to instruct those students all over again. Some may have had a blended learning experience, but some may have not. So, you know, you're starting fresh all the time. So that's showing the importance of this position that our cohort 1 and cohort 2 are continuing to want to work with Mrs. Fenning. And we see that same thing with teachers at the high school, for example, still want to work with Mrs. Mariola for Chromebook initiative items because, you know, just because you've done it once, you might want a little support, and there are new tools coming out all the time. We get requests for new online tool approvals all the time, so, ooh, I want to do this, but I'd like some support for the first time. So it's not something that's surprising, but it just is showing you the data that how important this position is. In what areas have you worked with a blended learning coach? We have each of the studios there, but 61% said they have used the coaching for all of the above. And again, that one had very similar results between cohort 1 and cohort 2. These are some of the tools that we use on a regular basis. Virtual reality, Seesaw, Screencastify, Edpuzzle, because everyone might have a little bit of comfort level, but it's always nice to work with someone that has used the program a little bit more. Some of those tools we have a subscription for, and some of them we are basically using a freemium account, and that means we use as much as we can of the free version, and then they want you to start paying to use the rest of it. So we are working through that. I asked the teachers for a narrative comment when it was a snippet of anything positive to share, and I won't embarrass Lauren and read any of those, all of those to you, but you can read that the coaching has been very positive and helpful for our teachers. And then considerations for moving forward. This is just something to think about, items to ponder. We had a meeting that was, I think, about over 3 hours this afternoon, talking about this, just, seeing what we were thinking. What are we going to have at cohort 3? What does our summer professional development look like? What will next year's professional development look like? Technology needs, room enhancements, furniture painting, maybe having blended learning building leads, our online tool subscriptions, because we've been making the best use of those freemium editions. So those are just all things to think about, and I'm sure Mrs. Powers will be talking to you about those things in more detail. We would just really all like to thank you for your support. One other item to mention is I would also like to thank Community and Focus for their support. Lauren and Beth have spent a ton of time with Dennis, and in that vein of having something for our parents to learn about blended learning, they are working on a blended learning, really just a documentary to explain what blended learning is, talking to all of these fine teachers, talking to our students, having snippets of each studio. So we haven't seen the final version, but that is supposed to be the Twinsburg Schools Today March edition. So we are really looking forward to seeing that, and hopefully that will be a resource that we can always have linked to our website, so when people have questions about blended learning, we can direct them there. So we want to thank them. Thank you. Thank our staff for being here this evening. And any questions?
I have a question. How many kids then, when you do your small group, how many kids are in that small group?
So I think that it depends on how many kiddos, one that we have in our class.
Mrs. Glab, can you go to the mic? Thank you.
So it kind of depends on how many kids you have in your class, first of all, depending on then how many students, you can, how many different groups you can have. And this year, for my class, I have 19 students that are within my studios and mini lessons. So the smallest group can be like a group of 3, and then the highest group could be anywhere from like a 5 or a 6. And those things kind of depend too on like their level of understanding. So for the students who are struggling a little bit more, I like to keep those groups even smaller. So I like to keep them at that 3, or like a max 4. For the groups, that they're really excelling, that then we can push them a little bit further. Those ones can be like a 5 or a 6, and I feel comfortable with that because, they're already showing that they are understanding that, so we can kind of stretch it a little bit more. But.
Jen, first of all, tremendous progress since we saw it the first time, and as it's, and I guess what wasn't mentioned tonight was all the furniture and the things that really had to be done to be accelerated. So first of all, congratulations to all of you for all that hard work. I know you touched on the parents. I'm looking forward to, popcorn and watching the community focus on that episode. But can you at least address, how are the parents' reaction? This is a different system. They may not have seen it. What kind of reaction are we seeing from the parents? You probably already had a round of, meetings with parents. Yeah.
So overall, it's been very positive, and we've had very positive feedback. We have gathered emails from our parent or our family nights, and so our intention is to contact parents, and we are asking them to give us input about their school year, especially because this is a pilot program. We have had concerns as well about students and how well the student is adapting to the different environment that they're in. I have actually talked with parents sometimes when these issues come up. I want to hear feedback about what we're doing and what's going on. And so a lot of times when I'm talking with the parents, it can be not as much a blended learning issue as much as an issue with what's going on between students and teachers and what's being asked and expected of students. I'm not going to say that there haven't been issues where parents have not been pleased as well with the situation and haven't felt like their student is succeeding in this environment. There haven't been many that, I think I've had 2 this year that I've spoken with in that situation. Some parents did come to our family night who had early concerns, and that helped a lot with what was being expected. One of the challenges can be we're taking students and we're asking them to take ownership. And so as some of these areas are highlighted, it's really important for us to be sensitive to how are we going about incorporating these strategies. Because if you think about it, these aren't new teaching strategies. We're taking the best we feel and we're incorporating them, but we're helping the students take ownership. And so with that is a responsibility on us to help provide for the students. So overall, I would say it's been very positive. Again, we're still working with parents that are hopefully going to be willing to help us help their students in these types of situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
So I really dislike speaking in front of adults, so this is just very surprising. So I just wanted to add something like really positive. So I had a couple of parents, and one of them, it was during conferences, and they got really emotional about blended learning, and so they actually they had started crying, like they were saying how happy they were and how much of a change they had seen in their child. And their child is a student that is on an individualized education plan. So it was just something that they felt so strongly about. That they really felt like this has helped them so much. And so. There's going to be some parents, who just aren't sure about it yet. And again, I feel like that's the whole not knowing part, of exactly what it is. But, I've had a couple of other families who, even just as of last month, they're just saying, so, is there going to be an option for you to be able to say, we really want them to be in a blended learning classroom next year? So they're really hoping for that, even if this is, their first year doing it. So they're, just seeing how much progress that their child is making. So, they don't want for that to stop, and they have seen how valuable it has been this year. So, there are definitely those really strong positive stories that are, coming out of all of this too.
So so the blended learning program is technically K through 6. Is that what I'm understanding?
So right now, yeah, and so it's only certain teachers. So it's a pilot, right now. So there's it started off last year with a few teachers that were from Dodge, and then myself and one other teacher from 3rd grade, and the 2 teachers from 2nd grade. So this year it's expanded. So now we have 7 3rd grade teachers that are doing it this year. So it's expanding, but right now I think it's just until 6th grade.
And just one other item, note, we don't have any 1st grade teams that are participating with blended learning at this time, and we also have some 7 through 12 teachers who are trying it in pockets. So they're stepping forward, a lot of times working with Beth in the classroom to try it together, but we've had some high school English teachers, high school science, so a little variety on just to sticking their feet in the water and trying it with support.
I don't really have any questions. I'll just say, just from the first time that you guys approached us about the idea and concept, you were really, really excited about it. So much so that you took us across the hall and, had us, just kind of model some of the lessons, so that we can kind of understand, what to expect, or at least what a child would experience, and I really appreciated that. That being said, I'm really a big fan of teacher-led initiatives. I'm not really one to push anything down on you guys. I really like the fact that you're doing something that you're excited about, and what is really telling to me, as someone who's been in education a long time, is that you're always learning. And so regardless of how long you've been doing it, the fact that you're still taking away things and recognizing that there's better ways to do things, and you can be more effective in providing the instruction to your children, lets me know that you're in the profession for the right reasons, and you're doing it for the right reasons, because there's a lot of burnout. And so I don't see that in you guys. And then the last thing I would say is that there's always a lot of apprehension when you're talking about using technology in the classroom. Oftentimes people make an assumption that the technology is replacing the teachers, and that couldn't be further from the truth, especially with respect to what you guys have presented. The technology is just a vehicle, but I forget who said it, but when there's more focus on the lesson design and also the activity around that, that's the key. And so I think you guys have done a good job in learning from the process, reacting based on what the data is telling you, getting that immediate feedback and applying it right away, I think is always the most effective way. That formative assessment data is always the best. I always talk about that all the time, and I'm going to continue drilling that because oftentimes our parents, there's a lot of focus around the report card, and you can't use that. No teacher uses that information to drive instruction. It's what you guys are doing daily in the classroom that really is what allows you to be effective in teaching, and also to know what kids need to know and what they need to learn. So I'm excited, and hopefully next year we'll see twice as many of you in front of us telling us your stories, and also lessons learned and so forth and so on. But bravo to all of you. I'm really impressed with the work that you've done.
Board of Education, in every single case in engaging teachers about this model, what we hear is that this has energized them to the next level. And we appreciate your support of blended learning, but more than that, we appreciate your support of our educators, because they're making things happen every day for our students. And thanks to self-directed folks who found an idea and said, hey, how about this? Can we do this? What does this look like? And working with our administrative team, great things are happening in our school district. So thank you so much for your support. Staff, thank you so much. It's been a long day, and you're here and you're energized, and I appreciate every single one of you. I can't wait to see what's going to be in the future for blended learning in our school district. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item G. I don't think we have any blue cards.
No blue cards today.
Okay. So we'll move on to item H, the treasurer report recommendations. Without objection from my colleagues, I will read H1 through 4 together. H1, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve the following meeting minutes. Regular meeting of January 22nd, 2020, and February 5th, 2020, as sent to the board under separate cover. 2, that the Twinsburg Board of Education accept the following financial reports for the month of December 2019: bank reconciliation, general fund report, general fund summary report, and financial report by fund, as sent to the board under separate cover. 3, that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts the check register for the month of December 2019. The total, including payroll, is $4,689,048.66. And 4, that the Board of Education of Twinsburg City School District, Summit County, resolves that the amount and rates as determined by the Budget Commission in its certification be and the same are hereby accepted, and be it further resolved that there be and is hereby levied on the tax duplicate of said school district the rate of each tax necessary to be levied within and without the 10 mil limitation as per attached, and be it further resolved that the treasurer of this board be and is hereby directed to certify a copy of this resolution to the fiscal officer of said county. Do I have a motion to approve H 1 through 4?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Davis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Felber. Any discussion? Mr. Aho, anything that you would add in terms of providing some clarification or further information about these?
Yeah, the amounts and rates resolution, this is like the second part of the budgetary process. At our first meeting in January, we had the little budget hearing. We sent that information down to the county, and now they've taken all that information and melded it with the tax duplicate. So you're taking the levies with the tax duplicate, and they do their magic down there, and they send us back this report here. And then we have to certify then that the amounts and rates that they have in there, basically checking, to make sure that everything looks correct. Then we send it back down to them, and it's certified, so then that's what gets collected in the following school year.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from my colleagues? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Aho, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mrs. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes. That item passes 5-0. Next is item I, action items, personnel. Without objection, I will read I 1 through 3 together. Resolve, item I-1, resolve that the Twinsburg Board of Education accept the certificated licensed personnel and/or contract recommendations detailed in the attached exhibit as per the dates, terms, and other applicable conditions specified pending satisfactory ORC background check. 2, that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts the classified personnel and/or contract recommendations detailed in the attached exhibit as per the dates, terms, and other applicable conditions specified pending satisfactory ORC background check. And 3, that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts the supplemental contract recommendations detailed in the attached exhibits as per the dates, terms, and other applicable conditions specified pending satisfactory ORC background check. Do I have a motion to accept items I 1 through 3?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Felber. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Davis. Discussion. Hearing none. Mr. Aho, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mrs. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes. That item passes 5-0. We move on to items J, action items, new business. Wow. Without objection from my colleagues, I will read items J 1 through 16. J1, resolve that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts a donation from Ohio Pile Prince Incorporated, 410 Dinnerbell Road, Ohio Pile, PA 15470 to Twinsburg High School in the amount of $16.73, donation from the sale of Twinsburg apparel at CVS and Giant Eagle to be used for miscellaneous instructional supplies per the attached exhibit. 2, that the Twinsburg Board of Education accepts a donation from RBC THS PTA to Twinsburg High School in the amount of $1,500 to be used toward field trip expenses per the attached exhibit. 3, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve an authorization for one-on-one aid interpreter services with PEP Prentice for one student attending the program. The cost is $146 per day, not to exceed 89 days remaining in the 2019-2020 school year. Total cost will not exceed $12,994. General fund expense as sent to the board under separate cover. 4, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves 178.5 additional hours for services from a teacher of the hearing impaired at a rate of $87 an hour. Total not to exceed $15,529.50. for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year. 80 hours were previously approved on August 21st, 2019, as sent to the board under separate cover. This is a general fund expense. 5, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve a release of transportation for one student for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year from the Twinsburg City School District to the Solon City School District, as sent to the board under separate cover. 6, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve the adoption of the Digital Art and Design 2 course of study. Course will run based on current staffing and/or enrollment as recommended by the superintendent. The adoption was approved by the District Curriculum Technology Committee on February 10th, 2020, as sent to the board under separate cover. 7, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve the adoption of the Project Lead the Way Computer Integrated Manufacturing course of study. Course will run based on current staffing and/or enrollment as recommended by the superintendent. The adoption was approved by the District Curriculum Technology Committee on February 10th, 2020, as sent to the board under separate cover. 8, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve the adoption of Robo and, I'm probably gonna mess that up, La Noche, by Fluency Matters for the Spanish 2 course reading list at Twinsburg High School. The adoption was approved by the District Curriculum Technology Committee on February 10th, 2020. 9, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve the adoption of Felipe Alou by Fluency Matters for the Spanish 2 course reading list at Twinsburg High School. The adoption was approved by the District Curriculum Technology Committee on February 10th, 2020. 10, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve the adoption of La Lorena de Mazatlan by TPRS Publishing for the Spanish 3 course reading list at Twinsburg High School. The adoption was approved by the District Curriculum Technology Committee on February 10th, 2020. And 11, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve the adoption of La Haya del Sastre by Fluency Matters for Spanish 3 course reading list at Twinsburg High School. The adoption was approved by the District Curriculum Technology Committee on February 10th, 2020. 12, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve the adoption of the Ohio Department of Education Suicide Prevention Module of the Safety and Violence Prevention Curriculum. The adoption was approved by the District Curriculum and Technology Committee on February 10th, 2020, as sent to the board under separate cover. 13, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve a contract with Education Alternatives for one student to attend the day treatment program for the remainder of the 1920 school year for an amount not to exceed $10,241, as sent to the board under separate cover. This is a general fund expense. 14, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves a 3-year contract for Gov Connection Incorporated, 732 Milford Road, Merrimack, New Hampshire, 03054, for Microsoft Open Value Subscription for Education Services, OVS-ES, with software assurance at an annual cost of $22,901.04, pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth in the proposal sent to the board under separate cover. This is a general fund expenditure. 15, that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve speech and language pathologist Maria Durio for a 3% supplemental contract prorated from August 19, 2019 through December 20th, 2019 to serve in the role of mentor to provide support and formative assistance to speech and language pathologist Haley Carper, who is required to complete a speech-language pathology clinical fellowship as a licensure requirement. And 16, resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approves the College Credit Plus Memorandum of Understanding between Kent State University and the Twinsburg City School District for the 2020-2021 school year per the attached exhibit. Do I have a motion to approve items J1 through 16?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Felber. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Davis. I'd like to thank Ohio Pile Prince, as well as the RBC and Twinsburg High School PTA for their generous donations. Always welcome in assisting with our students for what they need. There's a lot here. Mrs. Powers, is there any items that you want to expand on?
I think Mrs. Gordon already shared the information about the number of items on here that are aligned with the Curriculum Technology Committee meeting that was in February. So we appreciate your support of those items. With regard to number 5, Board of Education, every now and then when we have a resident family who is having their child educated in a school or a private school separate from our district, and there is a neighboring school district that transports to that particular school, we would release the child from our file and then ask that the neighboring school district transport that child. In this case, we have a student going to Hathaway Brown, and the Solon Schools transports there. So that's the reason for the release of transportation as item J5 on the agenda tonight. As we begin to really get into the nitty-gritty of planning for next school year, as you can see for item J14, the Microsoft licensing, as Mrs. Farthing mentioned earlier today, we had a very long meeting about innovative programs and technology and blended learning, and so this is part and parcel of really launching next school year with, you'll beginning to see that on all of the agendas moving forward, the licensure, the purchases, the staffing for next school year will become part of the agendas moving into the summer months.
Okay, any other discussion from my colleagues? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Aho, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mrs. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes. Item passes 5-0. Next is J17. Resolved that the Twinsburg Board of Education approve the purchase of interactive flat panels from CDWG LLC, 200 North Milwaukee Avenue, Vernon Hills, Illinois, 60061, in the amount of $37,392. That's sent to the board under separate cover. This is a permanent improvement fund expense. Do I have a motion for J17?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Davis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Felber. Discussion. Hearing none, Mr. Aho, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mrs. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes. That item passes 5-0. Next, miscellaneous.
Come eat pancakes March 7th. And come walk around the calves and walk them off that evening. So, it's gonna be a long day, but it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else? Anything? I will commend Officer Ron. He was, and I don't, what was it, Channel 8 or something?
They're having a, this month, Random Acts of Kindness.
Yeah.
And so I don't know who nominated Officer Ron for a Random Act of Kindness award, but over the weekend, he was featured on Fox 8, and I guess, according to what he told me, he got a lot of Chick-fil-A for free, so he's very happy. But actually, it's a well-deserved award. He's a rock star up at the high school and throughout all of our buildings, too.
Yeah, I was real happy to see that, and he goes way back to when my daughter was here. She still knows Officer Ron, and I'm sure all of our kids at some point in time are going to have some experience with him. But it was pretty nice that he was recognized in that way. So that's all I have. Moving on to item L, executive session. We do have a need for executive session, so I will read that the board will enter into executive session at 9:12 p.m. to discuss employment and compensation of public employees as per Board of Education Policy 0166A, and to consider the purchase of property for public purposes as per Board of Education Policy 0166C. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Felber. Mr. Aho, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mr. Felber?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFabio?
Yes.
Mrs. Gordon?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Okay, we are now in executive session. I do not anticipate that we will be discussing further business once we reconvene. Thank you.